End Times Watcher talking about dystopia books and says he sent a $2 tip. Says all the dystopia books seem to have savage communities living outside of the smart cities. Do you think that's actually part of the plan? What do you think about that, Jay? You got the expert on dystopian books and movies, Jay Dyer here.
Well, I don't think that in the vision of the elite, they are even going to let that happen. I mean, they're not. I mean, they want. A lot of times, the dystopian novels have the elite in the smart city and the people out in the slums. And the irony is that the smart cities are for the plebs. That's the prison. And the elite will have their own, forests and their own, armored redoubts and underground bases. They're not going to be living. They might come to the smart city for whatever, but they're not going to be living there. That's the rat maze.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me think, Jay, of that Ida Auken article, the famous, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, where the article finishes and she's like, oh, I'm so worried about the people that live outside of the city. They live in these communities.
That's propaganda.
And they have no technology, and they just live in a very backwards way, and it's this idea. Well, they're starting to create this with the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated economy, right? Like if you're unvaccinated, you won't be able to travel. You're not going to be able to get on a bus. You can't take public transport. But people outside the cities aren't going to be able to get fuel or electricity is the way they've got it set up. So I don't see how people would actually be able to live outside of this unless they're living completely off the grid.
Right. But see, they don't want to let people live off the grid.
Can't do that either, because you need batteries from China. You need certain things. I mean, unless you're just going to be, really old school without electricity, which might be where people have to go in order to get by. I hope it doesn't get to that point, but it's like if you can't have a bank account without showing vaccination, I don't know how many people are going to be willing to face those types of persecution. I don't know. I mean, a lot of this is speculation at this point. I hope it doesn't get to that point. I hope there can be some mercy for us, not from like the elite, but from God. I think it would kind of take divine intervention to slow some of this down at this point. I'm not trying to be like negative about it. I mean, ultimately, God's in charge. Ultimately, we don't get salvation through a smart city or through, whatever. Like, we're not going to like outsmart Satan. Like we're not gonna like out Satan. So I think really it comes down to repentance, and we try to live a good life. We could try to get kind of self-sustained, but I don't know what's coming, guys. I really don't know how far it's gonna go. I want it to stop. I'd love it to just chill out, pump the brakes a bit, but I don't know, man.
Did you see this? I thought you would get a kick out of this. I don't know if you saw this article. I covered it, but Alex mentioned it, and it's why I campaign for the extinction of the human race. This goofy boomer who looks like Tim Leary wearing like a purple communist dictator garb outfit. Have you seen this?
No, dude, but it like
this weirdo guy who's like, why I campaign for humans to be extinct. You should read this. It's crazy.
Is that guy dry humping a bamboo stick?
Yeah, it looks like it.
That guy's pole dancing in a bamboo forest.
He's like a lavender Tim Leary Kim Jong-un. Like he's wearing this communist. Why do they always wear these like creepy ass like space outfits?
Like
what
the
is
collar,
wrong with
like the collar that's it doesn't have a collar, but it's like it just comes up.
The Blofeld outfit.
Yeah, I mean, it almost looks like Roman Catholic clergy, like mixed, or like a Baptist minister's whatever that like.
They're like communist ministers, basically, like a communist dictator minister.
Communist, satanic, future ministers, Star Trek ministers.
You should pull that up and read it. I mean, it's a wild article, and this guy's such an idiot boomer. I mean, he's like, seriously, you got to read it.
Well, do you want it? Should we check it out right now? I mean, we have so many places we can. Yeah, all right. Let me pull that up right now. You said, do you have a? What's
well,
it
ties into this because these people have this guy's mindset, right? I mean, he's like the exemplar of these people.
Yeah, let's find some of the passages that you like, and I'm gonna put this up.
It's real short. It's not even that long. It's like one page, one or two pages.
Okay. Here we go. Experience.
It's just brief Guardian article.
Oh, it's a brand new one. Well, last year, 2020.
experience. I campaign for the extinction of the human race, right? So he talks about that he adopted euthanasia and Malthusianism because he was in the army, and then he read Paul Ehrlich's book. So we all know who Paul Ehrlich is, right?
Yeah, well,
so he read Ecoscience.
Give them a
No,
little.
he read Population Bomb.
Yeah. So Paul Ehrlich was basically Al Gore 1.0, kind of the first Chicken Little. He'd go on Johnny Carson and talk about how there's too many people. We need to decrease the human population and stuff.
And what's funny is that there's this creepy section where he's like, you know, I don't know where he lives. But he's like, I can see out of my window a church and an elementary school, and there's so many people at the elementary school that they have to educate kids over at the church. He's like, and I just can't stand seeing so many humans at the school. So he has this weird like hatred of humans, which is obviously demonic. And he hates church, which is obviously demonic, right? And then he goes on to say that we have to get to zero population growth. He says, I used to be into deep ecology. And he says, I tried to work with Extinction Rebellion. He says, but they're not radical enough. He says that they want to try to convince humans to not eat animals. He's like, no, we need to convince humans to die. And so he says that I came to this because he says, when I was a teenager, I was a hippie, and I was like backpacking across the U.S. And he said, I got into all this leftist stuff. And he's like, and then I realized all the leftists were just full of it. They weren't real leftists. They weren't really committed. He said, what we really have to do is have a one-child policy in the family. And it basically says it's a death cult.
Dude, listen to how it starts.
I mean, you don't usually get.
They're
not usually this candid about it. That's the thing. They're not usually that candid.
I like how his name is Les Knight.
All right, that guy's something else. I'm sure there's some gold YouTube interviews with that guy. If you could probably dig him.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
he's a really fun boomer to listen to.
This guy's a real winner. Check out. He's a great writer too. 50 years ago, I concluded that the best thing for the planet would be a peaceful phase out of human existence. We're causing the extinction of hundreds of thousands of other species. With us gone, I believe ecosystems will be restored, and there will be enough of everything. No more fighting over resources. The idea wasn't as well received as I had hoped. Oh, the people didn't like my idea that we should kill the people, and that made me only want to kill the people even more. It's like classic supervillain.
He says he gets emails saying, okay, you go first. And he's like, and then he thinks that he's really clever because his reply quip is, yes, as long as you're next.
My journey to advocating for voluntary human extinction began at school. I was born in the post-war baby boom in a small desert town in Oregon in the U.S. This is where I acquired the accent that I speak with now, because all the people from Oregon speak like this, and they hiss at the end of the S's.
They hiss like a snake.
they talk like an angry, slithering snake mixed with Richard Dawkins.
Yeah, right.
This is peak boomerism though, right here. Dude, you talk to some of these boomers, like, I'm not trying to out anybody. I'm not going to name names, but I talked to a boomer that's quite close to me, a family member boomer, about this before, and it's just like, it's so funny. Like, these people will straight up say to like their own family that there are too many people, and like they'll say to their own children that there are too many people. It's like, you are just. You're buying it. You've been programmed, boomers.
Like, and they always think that they're part of that. They're always exempt from that. Not me, right?
I'm the part of the solution. There's too many people, but I'm gonna help fix that. I'm gonna help. Like, how are you gonna help fix that? I mean, this guy says just kill him. We're gonna kill him all. What a psycho, man. And he's talking about these disgusting people in classes and churches in the second.
Well, the funny thing too.
You got a delay again. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, dude. We got like it's weird. We got like a 10-second delay. It goes good for a while, and then Zoom's just like, nah, we're just gonna mess with you and try to make you hateful of humans by ruining your technology experience. Seems like the delay might be better though. You still there, Jay?
Yeah.
All right, I think we're better.
Anyway, I thought you get a kick out of that guy. That goes something else.
Yeah, I like this guy, this boomer. Thank you, Jay. You got a future live stream here. We'll do a deeper dive on.
Well, it was funny because he said, "I tried so hard to work with Extinction Rebellion, but they just weren't really radical enough."
Yeah, like the dude's dressing up as like demonic the Red Brigade, where they like dance around and dress like trannies and dance around and celebrate the death of humans and do die-ins in front of McDonald's and lay down in front of government buildings with fake blood over themselves. That's not radical enough for you. He wants actual depopulation, not just depopulation rituals. Which, that's another thing, Jay, that I think you really, you've explored so much in your work is the occult aspects of some of these things. And when you look at these documents like Lockstep, when you look at Clade X, you mentioned the exercise going live, but there's this aspect of ritual to this as well, where it kind of desensitizes people to these scenarios, and by gaming these out, these tabletop exercises, these war game scenarios, you kind of what do you see? Like, could you go ahead and expand on that? What is the ritual aspect of this, and do you see kind of a connection here with occult ritual in these exercises that seem to portray future events?
Sometimes that's there. I'm not sure about in every scenario, but definitely, significant events like, they do have esoteric or occultic components. And one example of this would be Michael Aquino, who, would write books about how to take the principles of black magic and sorcery and apply them to psychological warfare. Of course, he was, Army colonel, who wrote the Army's doctrine of present-day psychological warfare. So if the head of Army PsyOps is telling us that, then maybe there's something to it. Now, that doesn't mean everything in every war game is occultic per se, but the people who were at the top, drawing these things up for many years were, occultists. And, Aquino, for example, worked in MK Ultra. He worked in, anyway, the comm that's aerospace command or whatever. He did that for many years, studying aerospace phenomena and psychological warfare, and he studied MK Naomi. So some people think he was involved in and programmed people, which is plausible. But point being is that there's a key figure, and I remember reading somewhere a long time ago. It wasn't Maurice Strong, but actually another person in the Club of Rome was in the Temple of Set, which was his satanic group. And so there's another example of somebody in the circles of Maurice Strong and Michael Aquino in the Club of Rome who was committed to seeing the destruction of most humanity as a sacrifice. And in their mindset, which harmonizes very well with the Malthusian Jonas Salk type worldview, which, somebody like a Jonas Salk, he may not believe in spiritual entities. He just may be a committed Luciferian or just a committed atheist. The both of those worldviews mesh because it's all about just seeing humanity as basically cattle to be experimented on or sacrificed, so that the priests of power, the elite, can then evolve and be like the commandeers of evolution. So you see how it doesn't really matter whether you're in the Temple of Set or whether you're just some atheist scientism proponent. It's the same presuppositions and paradigm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, too, how they use these exercises as almost like desensitization rituals for the elite, right? Like, I mean, true. Just, like if you're in school, remember the PsyOps that they ran on the boomers? They made them, like, hide on the floor.
Stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah. Well, like the nuke, would they do those nuke drills?
Get under your desk for the nuke.
And they used to do that with us for earthquakes in California as well. I don't know. I mean, I know... when you were a kid back in 1952 or 53, and you were in elementary school, they're probably doing that as well. No, I'm just joking. Jay's not old.
I got a full head of hair. You're the bald one here, so.
Where's you can't even grow a beard?
I don't think that's a real beard. So.
Oh, I know. Damn it, you did catch me on that. But the psyop of I don't know, just kind of like ritual trauma that they used to do to us in schools. that it's
Yeah.
almost like that principle of like you enact something, or like gaming, for instance, right? Like they use the Xbox remote control was used by the military for the drones in Iraq. So people were literally
Mm.
blowing up and killing people with Xbox remotes. And you get raised on these with these stimulus. So it's almost, there is this aspect of almost kind of like desensitization of the elite during these exercises, getting them ready for these
Yeah.
scenarios and training them on how they're to respond in such scenarios. Which is not like necessarily occult. It's just kind of but it is a mind control technique, right? You game something out.
Right.
This
Yep.
is why when you look at like, I don't know, just like creepers and pederasts and stuff, they'll get kids and they'll put them in scenarios where they're role playing, and then the game goes
Oh
live
yeah,
and it
yeah.
goes real. I mean, David Lynch kind of explores this a little bit in Mulholland Drive, right, where it's like the actress in, I don't know, in that weird scene where she's really corny and weird, and then she gets in the scene with this old dude, and all of a sudden it feels really weird and real and visceral, and the
Oh,
dude's like
when Naomi
feeling up.
Watts is doing her test, yeah, her
Yes,
screen test. Yeah.
yes. So it's like this, the way that he portrays that, I think, kind of does reflect in this, in a certain way, if that makes any sense. But yeah, the desensitization ritual aspect of these tabletop exercises is not necessarily an occult thing, but it does seem to be a grooming thing. Right, like, I mean, and what, who knows what other
Yeah, I think
exercises have
that's
been
a good way to
done.
put it.
Go for it, Mike. I think we
No,
got less.
you're right. That's
Yeah.
a good way to put it. Like, it's a conditioning exercise. It's in that sense, yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's ritual, and ritual or liturgy is kind of a play. It's like reenacting the story, and so seeing from that vantage point, you're right to read it that way. Correct.
And like, you look at children and how they play. When you have kids, you always have to, like, you got to watch how your children play, and sometimes you do need to like step in and remind them, hey, look,